Sorry, I didn't get that.
Yeah, I said I will be sharing my screen. There is no presentation per se. So I think it's on the browser, so it'll be an easier thing.
ठीक है, ठीक है. Rohit, you want to check?
Yeah, give me a second. I'm actually trying to change the background, but it's not giving me options. Okay. Yes, I will share the desktop share. Can you see something?
We can see your screen.
Okay, great.
We'll wait for another 5 minutes to start.
Yes.
Then we begin.
Priti on mute.
Yes, sorry, we were just checking. It's raining extremely, so network is all down.
Oh, okay.
There was fog this morning when we were coming to the university.
Interesting background.
It's some GIS room in Doon University. So
Wrong
there's like
perspective.
satellite images everywhere.
You guys are giving me inferiority complex now. I just have a plain wall.
Such lack of imagination. Come on, Sandeep. I have that palm-shaped islands from Dubai here.
My talk is
think my
around
back-
that only. Clean slate. Start from basics.
My background perspective is wrong, I think. Some image I've used.
Dipti ma'am, are they serving tea there?
Rahul sir, you will give us laddus. We're waiting for that.
Later on.
We are waiting.
Where is
Okay, so we
Sandeep?
get started. Rahul sir is here. Atul should also be joining soon. We'll start. So good morning, everyone. On behalf of Doon University and School of Design, I welcome you to the second webinar in our series. The pandemic has created many challenges in higher education, especially in vocational disciplines like design. And so through this series, our attempt is to bridge this gap between what design really is and what you think it is sitting at home. And we're trying to do this through experience sharing by all these designers who've been practicing in the field and have also helped us. The thing that we shared with our speakers today is that both of them, Rohit as well as Sandeep, have an extreme, if I may use the word, love for Uttarakhand. If not Doon University, they have been regular visitors to the state. They have deep bonds with the state, despite the fact that neither really belongs here or works here or lives here. And they've repeatedly come back to help us out in lots of things. And I'm so glad that they are sharing their experiences specifically on how graphic design and digital design in particular has changed due to the pandemic. So without further delay, I'll briefly introduce our speakers to those of you who are not familiar with them. Rohit is a pass out of KG Somaiya College of Engineering, where he did BA in technology, and then he did his post-graduation in graphic design from NID. Post that, he has had a very varied career. He's worked with Kahani Design Works, Idea Lake, Design Incubator R&D Labs. He's also been freelancing, and currently he's working with Design.org, where he's done several very exciting projects. He has worked with Biocon, National Stock Exchange, Pidilite, Story City, and for us, perhaps what we can relate to most is he's done one of the few tourist maps, beautifully illustrated tourist maps of Uttarakhand that is available. So thank you, Rohit. And we have Sandeep, who is also a graphic design pass out from NID, and before that he has done his BSc in animation, multimedia and gaming from BITS, and he co-founded the design firm Design Sparrow, and after that he's been working as the lead designer in TI Cycles, Info Edge, Meru Cabs, and current for Naukri.com, for IITF rural tourism projects for them, and for the iAccelerator at IIMA, where he was a design consultant. He has also set up his own, what will we call it? His homestay. Will that be a homestay, Sandeep?
Yeah, backpackers hostel.
Backpackers hostel in Rishikesh called Bunk Stay, which he was very closely associated with. And he has also been teaching courses across the country. So we start with Rohit. Rohit, please.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes. So speaking of love for Uttarakhand, I have very super duper attachment to Paltan Bazaar and the chaos over there. And I think the place I'm sitting now, you will hear some sounds around and you can get the feel of that place, hopefully. There will be some noise around, so please, you will have to try at times to focus on my sound. Let's hope that doesn't happen though. So I'll just share my screen. A lot of familiar faces. Good to see some familiar names, actually, not faces. So yes, I've briefly introduced a brief introduction, engineer turned designer, alumnus of NID, and currently working with Design.org in Mumbai. and I've been working on UI design. Am I audible? Is the sound correct? Right?
Yes, Rohit. Yeah, we can hear you clearly.
Okay.
And
Okay. So I've worked on UI design projects, branding, and illustration projects. And as the topic says, digital design workflows post-COVID. But before coming to digital design, I will share sort of offline work that we did, and with that I will share how our workflow had to be refined to suit the current scenario. Before we go to that project, though, one. Anyways, yeah. So you said we use this term graphic design a lot. Graphic design, visual design. But I, like some of my students here might know, I always stress on the fact that it's visual communication. And when you talk of post-pandemic times, more than visual, the communication part is what I feel has become more important than the visual part. And when I say communication part, again, what communication with whom? Okay, where can I see the Zoom screen again? Yeah, okay, good. It's really strange to see your face or your screen and talk. So, yeah. So I'm talking about communication, and a lot of times in design, we stress on the fact that research, communication with clients, communication with the user, these all are important. But recently we worked on a project in which we designed signage system of a hospital. And in that, the most important person we had to communicate with was the vendors. The vendors who actually fabricate the design signs. Like if you see this, yeah, these photos are only things I have because the project is still not completely out. So this is one of the signs outside the anesthetist door. There's still a hospital which is not completely began. So this is another sign. There's a hanging sign. Some of you might have worked on projects in signage systems. It might be familiar, but otherwise for them, there's the hospital. And these are the signs which is giving a direction of which place to go. This is another door sign which is extremely small, but yeah, these are some of the photos I have. Then again, these are the signs, perpendicular signs outside the doors of the hospital. So who installed these signs and how they installed it? Communication with those people was really, really important in this time. It is going to be sort of yarn-based session for the initial part, so please bear with me. And since a lot of your students, and I see some third year, fourth year, some graduates, so I'm just trying to keep this discussion a little advanced. So this is the ground floor plan of the hospital, and this is how we had marked. You don't need to get into details, but this is how color and text and these like, this is not a very good looking graphic design, but this is definitely functional graphic design. And we have marked the doors and the signs that come on each door, hanging signs, all have been marked in detail. But these are for the architects, these are for the designers. What we really, when we really talk of executing the design, we are talking of these people who are with hammer, who stand on these stands, and some more photographs. So these are layman, or not layman, but these are not visually or design literate, we call. So how simple can your communication be while talking to these people was the most critical part of our project. And though these were not the users or these were not the clients, but after, like, we spent almost 1 year refining the design, figuring out the spacing, leading, type, size, and all. But how those designs are given to these people was was what depended. The design we imagined, it had to be translated into the hospital, and how we share our designs with these people was really how it. I mean, that was the most critical part. And design, when we design 1-2 millimeter here and there, and those things, I felt very small when it comes to fixing these signs. And I'm just sharing some of the ways in which we shared these signs with them. So there are some signs which are both sided. And so when I'm going from left to right, I see one sign. When I'm coming from right to left, I'll see the other sign. And there's side A and side B. So here, this is an actual artwork. And we talk of alignment, we talk of spacing, we talk of text sizes and all. And when we give these signs, this is, this is outside design. I've written A1 side A, A1 side B. This is not part of the design, but still this was important when we actually handed the signs to them. Also, this is how we gave the placings of those signs, how high it should be placed, how much spacing we should leave and all. And so basically, this is sort of the, how I would say, after your design is complete, this story starts after your design is sort of complete, how you hand over the design for execution. Usually, one example is there, a lot of these love stories in movies end with like, and they lived happily thereafter. But what happens in that happily thereafter is the actual reality at times. And this is the actual reality after your design, after the design you like maybe has been approved by the client. And this is how the final phase is. So yes, talking with the vendors and how simple your communication system would be. And so one question I would ask those who are present, which software according to you is the is most important for a designer? Any answers?
So can you repeat the question?
Which software is the most important for a designer according to you?
Sir, Illustrator.
Okay. Any other answers?
Sir, I believe tools are secondary or skills should be the primary one, since tools getting updated these days by every like 6 months, let's say. So
Yeah, right.
people can handle skills very easily on tools, but the way we use tools or a main skill set and a problem solving skills, that should be the main primary, I should say, goal.
Yeah, that's perfect. Are you still a student?
Yes, sir. I'm a third year student.
Okay. So yes, any other answers? I'll come to you. Skill set is definitely tools come secondary, skills are first, knowledge first, I agree. But like if you have the skills and everything, and when you're using the tools, that's when ultimately you need some tools to execute your design.
Yes.
So yeah, any other answers?
Photoshop.
Yeah, Photoshop, XD, any other answers?
So Figma.
Figma, okay. Any other?
Paper and pencil.
Paper and pencil, yes. Digital tools, software tools.
So can we say InDesign? But like most of the work of InDesign can be done on Illustrator also.
Yeah, you can say InDesign. Adobe के सारे softwares बोल दो. Like anything else. रह गया? कुछ नहीं रह गया. Anyway, so I will leave you with one thought. When we were communicating with these vendors, there were questions like, suppose there's a toilet sign. So, कितने toilet signs हैं? Okay. Or there is a 30-inch by 7-inch one hanging sign. So how many hanging signs are there? So the vendors used to ask us these questions so that they can keep those aside. They can put those first. So and there are a lot of specifications of these signs, and that's when some point of time when you become a graduate, you work in industry, you will realize that Microsoft Excel is also equally important tool for a designer, which we tend to ignore, and some tend to be scared, some tend to be lazy, or etc. etc. But ultimately, when your design has to translate or when you have to take stock of things, Excel is one of the most important tools that you will be using when you become a design manager or some point of time in life. So while you're still in college, you can do some hands-on and get something out of it. Okay, and at least ice breaking कर लो Excel के साथ, बाद में जाके use करना, but it's one of the most important tools that you need. All right, then I think कुछ ज़्यादा ही ज्ञानबाजी हो गया, so I'll just share something else, some other work that I have done. Yeah, so graphic shots. So these, there's a company. There used to be a company called Manta Ray, and they used to publish short stories in Mint newspaper. And these are some of the stories I had illustrated for them in a full page. And so the point I want to put across here is lot of stories, lot of ideas, lot of inspiration is around us. So while you're traveling, moving around, you need to keep looking for these ideas. So one story I would zoom in is of, Mumbai means local trains, and I used to travel a lot by local trains. And I used to see these rack pickers every day walking along the tracks and picking these bottles. There used to be young kids, very small kids, who used to pick these bottles. So, and that used to be sort of earning livelihood for them. So this is a short story about them, how their life is. Sometimes they find a cap, or sometimes they find a slipper or a footwear that they start using. Otherwise, usually they are barefooted. Then if some cloth is fallen, they use it as their shirt or to cover it something. So these small things which don't really mean to us adds spice to their life. And that is what I've captured here. One thing I would leave the screen for a few minutes is the last point. Just see if you get the last point here. So anybody would like to share any interpretations from this last line, what I'm trying to say here? I hope you guys are familiar with what a rack picker is. Can you read this? Is this readable, legible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Any answers? It's
That
okay
we should be considerate for people like rack pickers.
Yes, that's
Garbage
true.
around the track.
Yeah. So basically, I'm trying to say is we talk of a lot of things like people should be civil, we shouldn't throw these plastic bottles around and all that. And world would be a better place, but maybe for some people like practical through life depends on that. It would mean something else if we stop throwing bottles. I'm not saying throw bottles, but I'm just trying to put a different perspective across. So these are some stories that I observed and wrote during my travels and sketched and illustrated them for this comic publisher. Yes, one more project I would like to share is the Uttarakhand illustrated map that Beauty spoke about. Some of you have seen this map personally, and hopefully some of you have seen this in some of these, one of the stores in Dehradun. It was stocked in Alaya and few other places. It's an illustrated map, and this sort of sums up the story of the map. It's basically, it started from the sketch or ideation, and this project moved on until it was out in the stores for sale. And what I want to share is, when you design a product, do think how it will be packed and how it will reach the end user also, how it will be kept on display in the stores. All these points have to be considered when you are thinking of any product. Now, of course, then this is sort of off topic, but I felt this is something that we need to consider when you are designing. And another thing is, if you see this map, as the altitude of the state of Uttarakhand increases, the colors are changed. So I have sort of simplified the information, and that is trying to add value to this map. From light green to dark green and then to blue. As it changes, the altitudes are different. Yeah, so Briti, I'm sort of done with these three important projects. I'll just take through the rest of the work, and later on we can take questions if anybody has anything. I think Sandeep will throw light on the digital aspect of design as well. So I'll just take you through this, some of the work. These are icons designed for some of the hospitals, some of the maps. Some of the logos I've worked on. I'm going reverse in my portfolio. One logo for a predictable maintenance electrical company, which is into predictable maintenance. Another branding project. Illustration and branding project. Website design project. This is the Mumbai Metro signage system. This is the brand guidelines for the visual and signage system of Mumbai Metro that we worked on. This is the website of National Stock Exchange. Yep. So just to conclude this, I would say communication is important in post-pandemic. And when you talk of communication, it means not just clients or users, but also the vendors and other people who actually bring your design to life. Okay, I think over to Sandeep.
Wait, you want to have a question answer round right now, or we take it like post it? Do you think?
You're Priti, right?
Yeah. Dhriti, should we have a question answer round after each session or combined? We can have, I think. Yeah. You're on mute, Dhriti.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I was saying let's do the question answers in the end. We'll go on to Sandeep's presentation and take the question answers together if it's okay with both of you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, hi. So hi guys, I think already some of you guys know me. I've taught you guys even after the pandemic, teaching you all those online tools and all. So since this talk was around digital design, so I made some notes. I'll maybe go around that. Before that, I'll quickly tell my journey. So I was one of the worst student, I think, NIT graphic design saw, because I think first semester, I didn't even know what is the difference between raster or vector. So I was doing a lot of my print project काम on Photoshop. So since I was in animation, so I used to do everything like pixel based. So yeah, that's how I started my career. And again, from there, whatever I've explored, there were certain things like I would ask today, because in the respective courses, we have talked about a lot of things like typography and digital design and all. So this opportunity I would take to talk about something else, maybe not about those things, but yeah, rightly how Rohit has set the tone of the whole talk being communication, and he went on to visual communication. So maybe I'll take a step back and talk about more about communication, just communication, how important it is, and what did I learn from my first job to the one I'm doing right now, and with other experiences I got engaged in. So yeah, I started my careers. So I am from Jamshedpur, and everybody would have seen Udan. So like the protagonist of the story, my parents wanted me to be a engineer working in Tata Steel, but something happened like eighth standard. I think I opted for commerce, and then my father started visualizing me being one of those managers in Tata Steel and not the engineer. So I think that's how I came to Delhi University to pursue BCom honors from Kirodimal College. But I was very actively part of the Fine Arts and Photography Society, and I was representing my college in all the college fest from IIT Bombay to BITS Pilani, and been winning a lot of awards. That's how I ended up being the campus icon for getting the most awards in Fine Arts and Photography. And that's when I was giving my interview with Doon, and the anchor said, like, why don't you consider a career in creative design or art? And I was like, okay, he might be telling this to everyone he interviews. And then he said, we also interview people from Delhi College of Art, but your work is really good and you should consider like art as a career, then become honest. That's when I never told my parents, because the second thought they saw from engineer to manager sitting in the Tata Steel production firm would also vanish. So I didn't tell them anything, but I filled up a form for Birla Institute of Technology, and they were starting. So in my era, design was, other than NID and few of the colleges, design was all about Arena and Mac. That's what I knew. Like design is all about learning those cool 3D softwares and print softwares. That's what I knew about design. And I was a fan of Zikka. That time, Z Institute of Creative Arts was there in Hyderabad. So in school, like being in the second, third tier city, I just knew that animation is taught there, and that's the only animation school, and I wanted to learn animation. So then from a senior, when I was traveling for this IIT Bombay festival in the train, I got to know that there's a course starting in Birla Institute of Technology, and they are offering like the animation, multimedia, and gaming. That's when I never told my parents, but I left the course, become honest, and I enrolled into that course. And I think it was second year, I kept on telling I'm studying computer science. And again, the chances of becoming an engineer in the IT world is still alive. So they were hopeful about it. So, and I told them, like in the Tata Steel, again, I'll not be working in the fields, but I'll be sitting in the computer department. So they were happy. Okay. Son still can be called as engineer. So in the third year, they got to know that this computer science studies is all about animation, gaming, and all digital stuff. So yeah, soon after that, I worked as a illustrator in one of the agencies, and by the time I left the agency, I was a visualizer there, and that's when I got to know that I have to work on my aesthetics, like because the client would come and my creative director would be like, "Maza nahi aaya." So I always kept on thinking, what are these factors which makes a work very delightful? So then I got to know, okay, I do use the tools, I do know all the softwares, I know how to edit it on After Effects or make 3D cool stuff, but somewhere I lack the grammar of the aesthetics, and that's where I need to work on it, and that's where I need to focus in my masters. So that's when I got to know about NID. I applied and got through, and after that, post NID, my first stint was with IIM Ahmedabad, where I was working with iAccelerator program for 3 months. Very little did I know that that would transform my life, because as a designer, I was working with 10 best startups in the country, and this program was all about monetizing their growth. So a lot of people from diverse fields of the industry would come and help the startups in different domains to understand how the communication strategy would help, or how to protect their innovation from a law or a big firm, all those things. So it was a like 2 to 3 hours job, but I started spending like some 8 hours there interacting with all the companies. And right from there, I had a clarity what I want my graduation project to be. So I was returning in a bus, and one of my colleagues in toy and game design told me, okay, TI Cycle is looking for visual designers, and it's related to branding, but it's more like product graphics. And they are launching India's first mountain bikes, and they want to do a not rebranding. It was the topic was reinforcing the brand value. They had a branding in place. So I went and Googled what is reinforcement. Then I got a call from the vice president of the company, and he told me like what reinforcement. So like a very enthu guy from visual graphic design, I started thinking of a rebranding the whole project and all, but then he rephrased it. It's like enforcing. So that's when it took me back to the IM days where I learned about the brand and how design is one part of the brand. And again, the communication comes in. So every aspect of my life, communication was one thing which was becoming very evident, that you have to articulate what is going on in your mind or what you want to express. So communication became something which was very important. How you communicate, you write, you tell it verbally, or you do through graphics. What is the stakeholder, what is the size, everything mattered. But again, communication was one thing which was very much needed. So when I was talking to the vice president, he told me like, you can change jobs later in your life, but this is the graduation project and I will do it once in your life. So are you sure you want to come to being a graphic designer? You want to come to a cycle? And to be honest, I was not sure. So I went around the city, I saw a lot of cycles, and like, again, I used to love cycling in my school time. So I thought maybe I'll take the project. And he gave me, I think, example, when you go to a park, when you're jogging or running, you see a lot of people wearing shoes. But at a glance, you know, this is Nike, this is Adidas, this is Reebok. That's reinforcing brand values. How you do it is, again, a lot of things combined, maybe marketing strategy, design, a lot of things. So that actually interested me. I went for this project. So before, like, I'll combine the work and the journey together. So before going further, I'll just share my project, the graduation project in NID, which again became a good point when I came back to the institute. A lot of product designers and automobile designers started coming and interacting and said, we never thought a graphic design student ending up. And that was the first question I was asked when I started my internship by my VP. Why should we hire a graphic designer for a product firm? And he had just returned back from Taiwan fair, and उन्होंने 1700 साइकिल का फोटोज लाया था, किसी का ये है, वो है, ग्राफिक्स है, ये है. So that's when that today I think they have a CFM lab and around 10 visual designers today. I was the second intern there who was doing graphics. And then I told, like, if you dip all the 1700 cycles into the chemical, all the cycles look the same. I'm very sorry, but 40 of your product designers and engineers in the last 2-3 decades, we have been creating those 3 triangles, and whatever differentiation the product has been created is by the visual design. So I think you should have more of visual designers from next year, and like very few product designers around. And I think that actually really hit it hard, and we set up a brand studio and color finish material studio there, working closely with marketing. And we created a lot of segments and repositioned them, and that's how Mantra came, and Hercules BSA, I think everyone has heard. So I was working very closely with design, but again with marketing. And again, this word came up, like the marketing guy would always say, how we communicate to the audience as a brand, how we communicate within in the plant was very important. So I think I'll just share my screen and so that it doesn't get a bit monotonous. How do you share the screen? So I do work in the digital thing, but I'm very bad with okay, share screen. Share. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can, Sandeep.
Yeah, this tool. Yeah, this is also available. Visible, which I am moving the bar.
Yeah, we can see your cursor.
Okay. So this is Jaunty Rhodes. I think I don't know, all our generation kids would know who Jaunty Rhodes is. Any one of you know who Jaunty Rhodes is? The South African all-rounder in the cricket. So the cycle we designed was later on gifted to him, as he was the brand ambassador. And how we went about it. So the first thing was, as a visual designer, I started working on the trends there. I'm quickly taking through this project because this defined a lot of things in my career and also gave me the confidence as a creative person to take on a lot of things in my life. Because I always visualized a graduation student project would be more like a branding or a print thing, but this changed my horizon. So when I landed there, I understood like we are launching India's first homegrown brand in India. And there are already like 10, 15 players, international players who are there, and people would be comparing our bike with that which is available in the market. So we definitely need to work on the look and feel, because if you see into cycling, all the drivetrains and components are mainly by Shimano. So it's not something, or the frame geometry is the difference, but color finish material of the bike matters a lot. When you enter a shop, you just choose it by differentiating it through the visual appeal and the graphics, and asking a question whether it will suit me or goes with my personality. So again, more than seeing cycle as a mechanical product or a tool, my part was to more see it as a lifestyle, and how I can enhance the whole brand value and communicate through visuals to the targeted audience. So then I started trying to understand how do people perceive brand. Like हम जाते हैं बाहर, हमको दिखता है कि ये ब्रांडेड चीज है, ये नहीं है. मतलब वो कौन से फैक्टर्स है which gives in our head that okay, this is brand. Even if कल को Lotto or some this Hrithik Roshan HRX brand has come, how do they position, and how do like we get this feeling of Nike being or Puma being like superior than other brands or something. So I went through how this idea of branding goes into a layman. So it's been feeded like that year, these movies released, Bollywood, Hollywood, and ABCD and all these things, and across from the cinematography to the product, these are the big brands who can hire like agencies working on the strategies, trying to understand these patterns. So I started borrowing my understanding from them, these big players, to understand what is going in the market. So to come down to the color, that year Lutera and Gravity, Pacific Rim, Chris, all these movies were released. So I saw this play of like the blue, black color there, and I saw those things also into the product segment. So this was definitely one thing which was coming out as a color palette. And another thing was Usain Bolt was started winning, and Puma had started signing him as one of the. So a lot of neon things were coming into the market. So that's how we. Just a second. How do we close this? Yeah. So for the kids, we wanted to go more neon, and again, working very closely with marketing, I got to know like different regions of the country. Exactly यही बात हो रहा था marketing वाले बंदे से कि अगर north में कोई खरीदता है cycle like Delhi or something, if someone is buying a 45,000 का cycle, he wants to flaunt it कि ये देखो मेरे पास इतना. But if someone buys down south, they'll be like, he was explaining me how Kerala mein ek attire would be all white, and he's a Dubai return, and he'll have a golden watch, and in between the talks he'll just flash that watch. So he was giving me that characteristics and behavior of the people in different regions of the country, and how they relate, or the personality matters, and how that should be translated on the cycle. So yeah, we would do a lot of ideation, and these were the marketing words, like being in the MTB category, it has to be tough, rugged, and flamboyant. I think I should keep a time limit because I'll go on explaining or else. So then this was one thing which I noticed being a cyclist enthusiast that time, that the branding was very much needed, because most of the cycling photographies and everything was done below the frame. So then we would make these prototypes, and everyone in the company had a opinion that why are we branding it below. And I think after I left the company, after a year, when this cycle became a hit in the market, I got a call from the sales head, and he congratulated me and said, like, actually a year back in the meeting, when I told him that everyone purchases, when they come to purchase the cycle, they see the cycle below the eye level. But when a photographer mounts himself in a competition, or when the cycle participates in a competition, it's always visible from below. So this was more for the north segment. This was more subtle and flamboyant for the south segment. And when the actual photography happened, the branding was only visible from below, because every photographer clicked it from below. So that's when they realized how important the branding was below required. But yeah, definitely when someone goes to the store to buy, they see the branding from here, not below. So that was one of the things. And now coming back to, I think, after that, I sat for my placements in the campus, and Naukri.com info edge had come there, and I had no clue what is UI UX. It was trending then, and I had no clue with a cycle ka portfolio mein baith ke I can get selected for a IT company. And I kept on asking my vice president, even after getting selected and 2-3 months into the work, I kept on asking, what did you see in my portfolio? I had no digital work, like app design nahi tha, website nahi tha. Why did you actually select me? So he kept on telling that we saw a pattern, like how you approach design and aesthetics was there. But I said, I have zero idea how digital thing works. And that's how like I learned on the job. 2015, I was handling Siksha.com for InfoEdge. And by the year end, the business had gone from around 20 crore to 40 crore. And it also had a vision of design-led business, other than being like more techie. And that's when the user-centric design and experiences, everything came into the picture. And then I understood how it gave me the confidence as a visual designer, because I went and worked in automobile design, and then I understood as a visual designer, I was just a translator. So कल को अगर मुझे कोई गार्डनिंग मैगजीन के लिए काम करना है, दैट सेगमेंट हैज स्पेशल अ टेस्ट, और मुझे ज्वेलरी मैगजीन के लिए काम करना और सब्यसाची के लिए एज अ विजुअल डिजाइनर काम करना है, सो आई विल हैव टू एक्वायर द डोमेन टेस्ट. और इफ आई एम वर्किंग फॉर होंडा and I'm making some typography or graphics, again these are different domains. As visual designers, again visual communicators, we are like translators. If I know French and I don't know about the F1 racing, I can't be sitting in a arena and talking. I know the language, I know French, I know Spanish, I can talk to those French and Spanish people, but I don't know the domain. So then I understood a very major part working with TI cycles, that okay, me being a visual translator, once I get into a domain, I'll have to start scratch to understand the domain and the appreciation for the visual aesthetics in the domain, and then how the user actually interacts in that. So that became one key point whenever I did that. So Dhiti mentioned I started my backpacker hostel. Again, I was doing a cycling trip from Manali to Ladakh. I met one guy who was the business head of financial Saxo Bank, and he was the financial analyst and business head. And we started discussing about our Europe trips, because we were starting earning now in IT companies, and we thought we'll go around the world. And then we figured out we are not earning enough to go around Europe at one go. So then we started thinking like, if we set up a place where people around the world come and narrate their stories, because backpacking was a segment, and that's why we were clear we don't want to run a hotel, because we wanted to know how these people are managing backpacking trips around the world at such a low cost. And again, you set up a place where you're hosting people, you're earning money, and you're getting to hear a lot of stories from different domain people. We have hosted like mountaineers, bar operators, adventure sports, journalists around the world. And I think that 1.5 years in Uttarakhand and Rishikesh, that's when I started coming to Doon University as visiting facilitator, and also got a chance to interact with all you young minds and seeing design department set up so nicely in the university. But yeah, that was the thing, that I wanted to know a lot of stories. And there were two ways: either I travel or I set up a place where these travelers come and narrate the stories. And yeah, that was a very delightful journey again. But see, we carry a tag, which, going back to my childhood, why did my dad wanted me to be an engineer? Because there would be a tag on the chest, doctor, engineer. So yeah, becoming a designer also, we carry that tag. And when during the convocation, we take that oath, being ethical and providing those aesthetic designs, and also educating people around what design is and all. So we should, I think, never forget that we are a domain expert, but at the same time, we should not stop exploring different domains, because that's what will give us insights into what we do as designers. But okay, coming back to also the final designs, we made a very cool tool during the COVID times, but this was more about my journey as a designer. But today's topic was with digital design workflows. So yeah, let's come back to communication. So Rohit spoke in length with how he has to instruct, like once you design something on the screen and it goes into the physical space, there's a lot of challenge. यहाँ पे सबको पता है morning walk अच्छा है. Everyone knows morning walk is very, but कितने लोग जाते हैं morning walk पे? So knowing something and implementing it the way you visualized or the way you want it to be has a lot of challenge. So I think in the institutes and some of the projects you guys have implemented, but again, seeing something on the screen and getting it implemented at the actual space for the actual end user stakeholder takes a lot of, it's a different ball game altogether, and communication plays a very important role. So even in the digital thing, when we design, हमारे company में tech team है, quality analysis team है, product management team है, business team है. So we deal with all these people and try to communicate what as designers we are thinking when the challenge was given, how we think we as designers can enhance along with these stakeholders with data science insights and all. But at the same time, we need to communicate how it needs to get developed the way we have visualized, because that's also part of a designer. You made something awesome, but if it doesn't reaches your target audience, how good is that? So TI cycles, we used to tell this, like the operation is successful, but the patient died. So you are too good at your artwork and everything, but by the time it reaches, maybe because of the timeline or the discipline, or you were not at the execution or the instructions were not right, so it didn't affect the patient, it died. You followed your procedure of being the doctor. And so yeah, always remember that if you are an awesome designer, if you have awesome skills, practicing in an industry, you need to be very disciplined, and just performing your operation doesn't matter, the patient matters. So coming to that, the first thing is listening. Everyone thinks communication is all about articulating and telling it, like even juries hota hai, to people get overwhelmed and want to say a lot of things semester mein jo kiye hain, and a lot of things. But the first point to a very good communication, which again has been tested during these COVID times, that you have to be a very good listener. And see, I always, why I'm close to Uttarakhand, and I think Rohit will agree to this, and even Dhriti, Rahul sir, and we keep on interacting, talking a lot on those chai tapris, but we keep visiting the mountains because it tells us that nature has much more to deliver. So even to this point, if you see, God has given us 2 ears and 1 mouth. So when we see the mountains and we see like they have been standing there for 1,000 and I don't know how many lakhs of years, and they've been not saying so many things. And when we compare ourselves to the mountains, we are so small, but we make so much of noise. So I think there are signs where if you want to be an effective communicator as a designer, as any domain practitioner, you have to be a good listener. That would be the first point. Yeah. And second is less is more. Like when we are designers, we want to say a lot of things, but less is more. So Mark Twain, I think everybody would have read Mark Twain stories during your school days. So wrote, I think writing a shorter letter takes more time. So making anything crispier, even in the design process as students, and when you want to write a full paragraph essay into a bullet points or a shorter essay, it takes more time. So less is more in the communication. Always remember that. You don't have to talk a lot, because that gets the whole essence or the point diluted. So always remember this, less is more. And today, you don't have the, what to say, like the engagement time. लोगों के पास, they can't concentrate what you're saying or explaining. They are very, you have to be precise, concise, because they don't have time. And with this COVID and this video format and all, physically it's still okay, like you can engage, but only through visuals or just through your words you can't. So you have to be like shorter and crisper. And there was another, yeah, again, so there are different stakeholders. When Rohit, so when I came from a corporate world where I was very sarcastic if I want to get things done, or very crisp with the kind of stakeholders, because I was working with people's graduates from IIM Ahmedabad, ISB and all, and IITs, and I thought, okay, so I came to the kitchen now. Just cut short of the movie, and 6 months down, I am handling this cafe. And 8 o'clock, I am like, abhi tak bartan nahi dhula, cafe start hona hai. And these are blue collar job people who earn 6,000-8,000. So sarcasm doesn't work. Instructions also doesn't work. So I was like, it's not working. What used to work in a corporate, the whole communication is not working in this setup. Like I was setting an example how I used to do in the team, like with designers, I would do something and explain them how to be done. Here, if I do that, the guys were like, he's doing it, let him do that. Why should we do it? So setting examples were not working in this segment. So I had to understand now how to communicate and reiterate myself and like make instructions for them. So that's what, when Rohit was telling, setting up those signages in a space is not easy. Designing it still is easy, but communicating to them कि कितना होना चाहिए भैया, exactly आपको कैसे लगाना है, कितना height, everything is not easy. That's a task. So again, matters whom we are talking to, stakeholders, and accordingly we have to go about the communication. But saying that, a picture, like always is worth 1,000 words, what we have heard. But when we are communicating, we should also think of metaphors, analogies, and stories. That keeps the whole context thora interesting, engaging. Because wo point hai, if someone is not engaged, not listening to you, you might have written a lot of interesting thing you want to tell them, but wo format engaging nahi hai. That has to be engaging. So you have to think through, like though images hoga ya metaphors hoga, what is the audience size, target audience kaun hai, what is the background, and that's how you should design your communication. And again, a lot of people in the juries and even in the corporates I have seen when they're preparing PPTs and all, so it's tough, it's not easy. One is like how you want to present the data on the PPT. Second, where should your focus be, like what should be the key focus when you're communicating. I think that's very important to jot down who your target audience is. Your project might have gone different phases and it might not be in a linear way, but when you're presenting and the target audience has to understand your struggle, what you went through, has to understand your process and how the output matters, you have to structure it out. That's very important, because we have heard a lot of this design process and all everything, and even when you come to a company, it needs to be communicated. Then only we as practicing designers will bring value for what designers do in a company setup or any setup. So the communication part, where it took time for a designer like a week to come up with a simple paragraph well written in a typography, you need to deconstruct and tell the rest of the stakeholder where it takes time, so that they next time estimates well the project and knows how, like we know all tech guys code and they tell you the estimate how much time, but as designers we should also again know how to like go through our like how much iterations we take, how much time in term of time. That's when most of our designers fail, because are not able to effectively communicate to ourselves. Like this is the pattern I take, if it's a 10-day project or a 5-day project, I take 4 days to first brainstorm or come with a, so you need to figure out how you work and how much time, and you need to communicate that also to the different stakeholders, where does the time get consumed in a creative process. I think, yeah, the last one is everyone loves meme these days on Instagram. Memes, what do you call memes or memes, whatever. You know why? Because a news might be boring, but the meme has a humor in it, and it's a format which catches your mind very fast. Like, so that's when the metaphors, visually, the memes, everything is becoming very effective. It's a better way of engagement now. It's energetic, it's fun. So I think when the times are changing and everything is going around, we as designers, whether we are practitioners or as a part of the education system, we need to figure out how to make the whole event more engaging, and we need to innovate our ways. That's the only way out. We don't know what future holds for us and how the situation may be, but we need to innovate every day. But at the core of it is communication and understanding what it is and how it is. Even if we were not designers, communication was one of the most important thing. But again, given today's scenario, like a lot of people don't understand how design can bring value. So for us, it's even more challenging to communicate what we do and also to communicate how to get things executed. Or I think in every stages of a designer, communication is the key thing to articulate or explain or give instructions, anything I think we can think of. So it's a full circle, how like a third tier city boy or a Jamshedpur industrial town boy coming to and exploring things. But at the key, one thing which I realized, like before going to a design school, I was a very introvert guy. I'm still is, but somewhere the jury system and everything, if I would have done an MBA also, I would have not been such a better person at communicating things. But yeah, design actually has brought that, because as designers we all are very self-critical. That's what the academic structure and all teaches us. After the juries, we always reflect back, and I think we should keep these traits alive and always retrospect, introspect, and come up with new ways of doing things. That's where the innovation lies, even in the communication as designers. Yeah, I think if someone wants to view some digital things, but I think it'll be better if we go to the question round, and if someone has anything around it, I can show the work which we have been doing in visualization and data tools and all. But again, those are outputs. More important is visualizing or knowing what to do and how to do it. And that helps to deliver any kind of design projects in any kind of domain is. And through my experience, that's what I can ensure you guys. Yeah, that's it. I think I'm done with my presentation.
Thank you so much, Sanjeev. I like how design execution, project execution, the word execution features so majorly in that. So thank you so much for sharing all your experiences in all of this. The one question which I want to, sorry, okay. The one question which I want to ask both of you is that increasingly we find there are platforms, there are websites that are offering a templatized version of design, which to a lot of people has become a design solution now, the easy go-to economical design solution. So what is your understanding of this, and how long do you think it's going to be viable to be a digital designer?
I'll take that question, Rohit, because I recently faced like last consecutive years I've been facing this. So Monday we had placements from NID, and I was sharing with a lot of NIDians. This is the consecutive year we did not hire any guy from there full time. And being an alumni of the institute, it actually was disheartening. We ended up hiring a lot of IIT Guwahati, MIT people, Symbiosis people, but we didn't end up, like, this was the second consecutive years, and we were answerable to the HRs and everything. Like, we are participating, getting involved, like 10-15 designers are getting involved, and this was one of the reasons. Like, now we are seeing a pattern when like, again, when Bilal said when Rohit asked what are the important tools, and Bilal said like tools doesn't matter and all. Again, that might become a format answer if we don't implement that. We know these are the template answers, but if we don't implement that and we actually don't believe in those things, it starts becoming a template. Because I have now started seeing a lot of user personas, journey mappings in the process, which is just there because it has been taught that process aisa hi hota hai. But a lot of insights are missing, which is not there. So this is the biggest fear when, like, set up institutes like NIT and all, this is the biggest fear now. We are seeing, like, we throw questions and they are not able to, like, we throw a new problem to them and they are not able to, like, think of solutions. They know the process, they know this template, but it's becoming difficult for them when given a new scenario or something. So I think process do exist, these templates do exist, but it's not the way. We need to understand why the process, and once we understand the process, it's not that we should know it. It's not just a template to achieve something. Those processes, like 12 principles of animation Disney built. Disney never said animation can done only through those 12 principles. Those are like guidelines which will help you achieve better animation. But those are not the ultimate rules which can create. I think a major differentiation is there. Now people think those templates to be design process or design. Yeah, Rohit, you want to add on something?
Yes. Actually, I feel the reason some of these template sites and all exist because startups don't have enough money and enough time to invest in a designer, and we always feel we are getting less paid. So we also charge a good amount, which is valid also because we are actually creating something unique, born out of the idea that the organization is. So there is some logic to it, but I mean, initially, before they get convinced about how design can impact their business, a lot of other things matter. Paying, if it's a restaurant, paying the waiters, building up the restaurant, printing something, those things matter. And it doesn't matter how good design is. Sometimes it just is important to have things in place. So that's when I think these templates do help people. But yeah, it's because there's so much of it these days online that it's difficult to not get influenced by them. So that's why I think the students tend to maybe going that way and getting influenced by the templates rather than because everybody you see is flipping Instagram or going through Facebook, and everywhere. You will, once you see some site, you will keep AI will keep showing you similar examples of designs and references, and that is bound to influence you, and you might. It's very difficult to escape that temptation to jump directly into design and have some templates. Basically, start the visual design process on an Illustrator. Bilal said like sketch, paper, pencil. It's all that important. But when you when Sandeep said like morning walk is good, but not everybody does it. So same way, knowing that paper, you should start with paper, pencil, and then go to software. You know it, but it's difficult when you get into the industry, when there is time constraint, when there is pressure, when you have competition from your colleagues, maybe, or such things. Then it's difficult to stick to this basic rule that pen and pencil is important, and first you need to do research and all that. So those things, it's difficult to stick to your basics, and that's when I think these templates are gaining more importance or influencing students.
I think again in Doon also what we saw, I would encourage all the everyone. It's like, see, when we spoke of communication to the other stakeholders, communication within ourselves is very important. As human beings, we should take out the time in the whole day and sit and communicate with ourselves, what we are good at, or so. Don't try. This whole process gets messed up when we try to like expedite it and try to impress through our artwork, which even in my earlier days in bachelor's, I faced a lot. I would try to like impress with my skillful or artwork. It doesn't go a long way. We have to invest time and converse with ourselves to be more clear and better where as designers we stand, and it takes time. Like how musicians don't become musicians, or engineers or lawyers don't become overnight. A creative process takes time, and we have to converse a lot within ourselves to know what kind of designer we are. Then only it's possible for us to communicate to the other stakeholders of the whole world. So it takes time, have patience, and don't get into shortcuts because it'll not pay off. And if you invest time, you'll have more clarity. You'll not need these kind of templates. You can create them much often according to the requirement, and there's no template which fits all. So keep on thinking, keep on asking. I think that's one thing which is very good also in the design department in Doon University. Like that's one thing, we should not stop asking why we are doing it. Kya hoga isse? ऐसे ही क्यों कर रहे? Why are we following this? That is one thing I enjoyed every time I visited, that people do ask things. That should not die. That should always be that curiosity, questioning, be always raw. You have to again start from scratch someday. So don't fall for any shortcut templates or something just to impress and get something out of it. It won't help long term. That's, I think, some advice I would like to share.
I have a question from the speaker. Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Rahul.
Yes.
So design की एक simple definition नहीं है, as we all know. There are so many definitions, and today we are focusing more and more on communication, how to communicate. मैं जो both speakers हैं उनसे इस बारे में थोड़ा emphasize करने की request करता हूँ कि design is also a solution to the problem overall. मतलब just not communicating. Maybe there is a production which produce like cycle. They are producing cycle like shoes, and like Rohit का जो product था कि signage. They are solving some problem, and then designer is communicating. But designer also is knowing all the छोटे-छोटे twist turns, क्या हो रहा है, किसको communicate करना है, क्यों communicate करना है, and then they are following the process. So the visual part is just tip of the iceberg. Actually whole पूरा पीछे सब कुछ connected है. So just if you can share through.
Should I take it from this?
Yeah, Rohit, you go. Elaborate.
Yeah, I think what Rahul, correct me if I'm distracting from the idea, but what Rahul means is what we have this in simpler ways, form follows function is what we need to remember always. When we are designing something, the structure is important, or the function of something is important. NID, I think there's this important, interesting example of a kettle in which the outlet of that kettle is ulta, or it's facing upside, and it's difficult to use the kettle. It looks beautiful, but it's not usable. So I think it's very important that you understand the users and how the product is going to used by the people, and then the visual aspect is which comes later. क्योंकि बहुत ही अच्छा signage बना दो, but if it's wrong, if people are not able to navigate using that signage, as Sandeep said, patient died. So because hospital में signage इतना अच्छा दिख रहा था कि people lost in seeing the beauty of it, and they it was not really functional, that it didn't help in showing them where the emergency ward is or where the OT is. So if that is not that purpose is solved, then it's of no use, then it's not good design. So yeah, that's something. So, and for that you really need to delve into what the users are, understand the users as much as you can. Which example? I think Sandeep's examples in that cycle, TA cycle, about how North Indians interpret things and how South Indians interpret all these sort of minute details. You need to understand and not try to generalize. You tend to generalize, okay, अच्छा चार लोग ऐसे हैं तो ये ऐसे ही होगा. Not always that is the case. Each individual might be different, and you need to understand each user and then come to a conclusion. Yes,
Yeah.
Sandeep, you want to add?
Also adding to Rahul sir said very, very rightly, like that SOOS is just the tip or tangible output of the process. But once design is not about that output, there can be 1,000 output. You can make a SOOS out of the same research, you can make a cycle, you can make a poster, you can make a movie, you can make anything. These are just tangible output of that process. But design is not just about the tangible output. That's the outcome of your process or what. So actually, Rahul sir, मैं वही सोचा था, I'll start today's presentation what design is. So one guy in NIT, he wrote his research colloquium, design is law, design is structuring things, करके he wrote 5,000 definitions. That was his research colloquium. And anything is designing, anything structuring, we can say designing. It's a process, and understanding that is more important. Same research what I did in TI cycles, I can make anything. I can make a whole apparel segment with that. I can make a whole SOOS segment with those kind of insights. I can design anything to do with anything. I can design a service design, or I can design a program, executive program for marketers, or the tangible thing can be anything. The output can be anything. But when we went into it from a designer point of view, trying to understand who's the user, how the brand matters, and what exactly we are looking into, वो एक process है. So I think whenever we are designing something, output might be any product, but that process or the research is very important. And I'll tell you like how our profession is similar to law or any other profession. So lawyer क्या करता है, has case studies. So next project they are taking or any new case they are taking, they refer to the documented case studies of similar kind of cases which has happened, and they take clues from that. So someday, sometime somebody would have sued someone, and this case would have come off like sole proprietor or something, and now all the lawyers, actually it's documented and all the lawyers refer that. So that's the process, or that's the documentation, and now the output result, anything can be anything. So rightly said, sir. I think जो दिखता है output, that's the tip of the iceberg, but a lot goes inside it, and I think that's more important. If that is like fundamentally right and right in place, the output, you can be like dead sure is gonna be relevant to the target audience and be appropriate, because the design process has been rightly followed, and that understanding to the designer or other stakeholders involved in it is there. Yeah, I think I hope that answers the question.
Yes, very well, very well.
I have a question in the messages. You have been working in the digital space pre-COVID. Did the incoming of COVID change anything that pre-existed in the digital world, or was it just the boost of the space change?
Okay, so no, actually a lot of things changed. I was working with Naukri.com when last year, March 2020, the COVID hit, and a lot of layoffs were happening in the country. Like a lot of companies shut down, and a lot of entry level, a lot of techie people were getting laid off and all. And quickly, like we made a team within Naukri, and we thought, like, as the biggest platform in the country, what can we do for our users? So then I was part of that rapid product team, and within 15 to 20 days, we started, if your company has laid you down, like laid off without serving a notice period or something, and the company has shut down because of COVID situation and told that we can't afford to pay you anymore, we brought in for the job seekers that they can raise that laid off during COVID. And on the recruiter side, we highlighted this as a filter where the recruiters who are looking for less notice period, like they don't want to wait for 2 or 3. And because see, when anything happens now, there are two sides to it, pros and cons. When COVID happens, all the IT companies actually, because of the products started getting used so much digitally, that they, like big firms like Microsoft and Google, all of a sudden had like so many openings. So to take these laid off people and placing them in a better place became like and that's when we saw as designers, and we pitched into the business, like there are simple solutions which can help our product help this. So whoever, like a Java developer who got laid off in a startup, tagged himself as laid off during COVID and got placed in Microsoft within 2 weeks, because he now doesn't have to serve notice period. And for Microsoft, they want now the teams to be much better, and they're investing so many people. Second, it's not just a space change. Space change was a challenge for initial this thing, and I won't like neglect that is we started adapting to this format. I don't know, even after working for 1.5 in this setting, I'm still not okay with it, but I do things much effectively in this way, because there's been like another 30 years we were adapted to different things. So all of a sudden 1.5 we might compromise and get used to it, but again that ease would not come. But again, effective wise, yeah, we have adapted the technology well. The second product was we started having video profiles in all our products. Like even in 99 acres, people were not able to go and visit the flat. We thought of AR, VR, but we started making these video things much available. And even in Naukri.com, kuch jobs aise hote hai jisme when the meeting starts, no, within 4 minutes, the recruiter knows I don't want to hire, because the oratory skill or the personality matters a lot in that job along with the qualification. So if you send a video profile, it helps them to shortlist the candidate, because that job profile needs that kind of oratory or the skill. So they can just go through the video profile and shortlist the candidates better, instead of just going through the qualification and experience. So these kind of changes came in the digital products, so yeah, not just the physical space revamp, but yeah, a lot of products actually revamped. A lot of medical, I think a lot of healthcare products have revamped, and a lot of innovation is happening in that area. Yeah, Rohit, if you want to add anything which has changed, like post-COVID scenarios.
No, I think that's all. Basically, it's more responsibility now, I think, to be clear about what you are doing, how much. I think time and with communication, time is also now playing more important role, because we want things to be flexible. Ghar baith ke baaki kaam bhi kar sakte hain with work, but it's not easy. You need to be disciplined. You need to manage your time. And so that aspect is also, that's all, like that thing only I want to add to what you have shared. And we are bad at it. Designers sometimes tend to get lost into design ko, like acha nahi lag raha hai, I am not happy, so you keep on working, but prioritize some things over other things, and you need to work on that. You need to evolve in that aspect.
Yeah, I have an observation here which I saw in both of your work also. It's that you cannot make hard boundaries between work or between descriptions of work. And that is, I think, a direction that School of Design is also going to move towards in our next curriculum review. It's you cannot keep drawing boundaries that this is your work and this is not your work. This is the domain of communication and this is the domain of say tangible design, because there are overlaps everywhere. For example, in a signage project, you cannot say that you're just a visual communicator. You also have to take care of all the tangible aspects. For bicycle visual branding, you need to know the geometry of the paths. Whether you're a product designer or not, you need to understand what the constraints brought about by the geometry of the path are to effectively deliver your end of the project. And the pandemic, I feel, has further brought in these, not brought in, but sort of erased these boundaries that we draw between our work. Understanding each other's domains is very important to be able to deliver your whatever your services may be.
Yes, I think I'm finding a lot of answers in Sandeep's presentation. So, or a lot of answers to a lot of questions. So when Sandeep described his trends, market trends, he took the example of Usain Bolt and films, and that's how wide you need to go when you are doing research. And later on, when you get into the technicalities, you need to go into deeper geometry of the cycles and all that. So you need to have both the things going on when you are designing, both the aspects to generate a concept or strategy and then to execute it. You need to think broad and you need to get narrowed down also into the details.
I think, yeah, I missed one point when I wrote it down, but I missed it. I wrote it as a bonus point in my communication thing. And the bonus point was you need to enjoy. If you don't enjoy what you're communicating or you don't understand and you're put in a scenario where you yourself, I was interviewing someone and she was presenting me a cryptocurrency. I said, as a layman, I don't understand cryptocurrency. So first you'll have to explain me what cryptocurrency is and how it's working. And then you will have to explain me the whole, but to my this thing surprise, she knew what it is. A lot of people don't know and they start working on the platform just knowing ki haan platform ye karega, but that platform is all about cryptocurrency and you don't know anything about cryptocurrency. It's okay. Even Bill Gates might not know about cryptocurrency. A lot of people say they don't understand about cryptocurrency, but at least knowing it when you are designing gives you the liberty. So I always thought, I hired this guy new Sanchit from IIT Guwahati, and he was preparing for his medical. He even ended up in a medical college for a year. And that's where he said, I said, why did you choose design? And the first line in the interview, he says, you can be anyone when you are a designer. You can save lives, what doctor does. You can one day also become a doctor while designing things for the doctor. You can become a musician, you can become anything. That's why I chose design over medical. And that was such a nice answer, because we have to understand the domain. We have to shadow the user or the profession. So sometimes today, I never studied product design, but how rightly Dhriti said, because I have to design, I know what top tube is, what is the size of the bottom tube, what is the size, what is the ergonomics. It was not part of my project. I was not supposed to design a new bicycle in the geometry sense, but to know all those things, and out of curiosity we went into it. I saw one project of it when I was working. I also made a custom illustrated cycle with which I participated in one of the top 5 races in the world, like the Himalayas. And it was, so we need to enjoy it, not just ki, as I think that's why we all chose design. हाँ मतलब एक गलती है अगर ये सोचा कि पढ़ना नहीं पड़ेगा डिजाइन में कुछ creative sketches करना पड़ेगा and all those things which I think everyone regrets after coming to design. So वो नहीं है, but start falling in love, enjoying it, and all these things will come very naturally. वो ना भगवान वाला feeling आता when you connect those dots, Usain Bolt to the movie, and all of a sudden you feel very enlightened. अरे वाह, I am into like sports strategy, into the product, and you feel, oh, design gives me this opportunity to explore all these things, and now I can connect the patterns and dots. So I think once you start enjoying, you'll figure out so many things. And answering to Dhriti, there are very thin lines. I don't know, even in the last discussion when Priyanka and Varicha was talking about, There are very thin lines. You can't, and not just between the different disciplines of design, but now since a lot of cross pollination is having, like a lot of designers ending up in biotech companies or ending up into pure data science companies. So there is a lot of cross pollination happening, like so much science into the sports, so much science into engineering, so much. It's not just about just design or pure engineering or pure medical. It's now a lot of cross pollination things are happening. The dentist I go to, her husband is an NIDN, and a lot of, she says a lot of the tools which goes inside the mouth for the lighting and things doesn't exist in the market, and the friends used to come over to the dentist clinic, and they innovated those products. Because when I went to this dentist, I was like a light music going on, and the room, how the dentist operates was very different. So I asked, and she said, my daughter is in NIT studying graphic design, and my husband is a designer, and most of their friends actually came and told me this clinic can have a different experience, and most of the tools you see customized are designed by them. That's why I, as a dentist, now I'm much more clients, and they are happy with me with the overall experience. So I think जैसे भी आ गए, ये सोच के आ गए कि डिजाइन में पढ़ना नहीं पड़ेगा, but design gives you that opportunity to intervene and get into different domains. Don't restrict the options, and there are actually very thin line when you like perform as a designer, practicing designer in the industry.
Absolutely, yeah. Are there any other questions that the students have?
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yes.
Hello.
Us.
Ma'am, I had a question. Sir, I have a question for both of you, that does practicing art helps us develop the sensitivity to be open, or are there other different things? Because personally, I don't practice a lot of art. So are there are there different things other than art that helps us develop that sensitivity to help in problem solving and helps
Okay.
in problem solving?
So, us, to understand your question, I need to question you. What do you mean by art? Because unless until I get what you mean by art, I'll not be able to answer.
Expression.
Expression.
Like that's what art is. And I mean, I don't make a lot of art, but I write sometimes. So
Okay.
are there other things other than art that helps us develop that sensitivity?
I think
Be
good
open
question.
and
Yeah, so art can be anything. It's not about sketching. Art can be dancing. Art can be making music. Art can be the culinary art. Art can be how you go to gardening. Art can be the way you are flexible with your body, the motion you do the whole day. Art is, I think, every day. Again, that's why I just want to widen your horizon. Like what art is, if you're restricting art again to certain forms of expression, art is everywhere, and every art needs a way to, like, if you feel yourself comfortable with that art form, it's easier for you to tell it through acting, facial expression, or through words. Agar aap likhte ho, to again you think through it, and before putting it on paper, again it's an art form. Doesn't need it to be key. Again, sketching and writing, how there are techniques to improve your writing, narratives, there are structure ways, but something you are comfortable with art form, agar aap wo follow karte ho, to I think, yeah, as creative persons, I think everyone, I was taking someone's class and kisi ne bola subah riyaz karna, and I was so happy that riyaz as in gaane ka riyaz karta hai koi, to I was like, okay, I never learned formally singing or music. And there are like lot of studies around the world happening, like design helping in health. Some professor started singing, and it actually helped her uh, respiratory and everything, the diaphragm increased and everything, and she realized, okay, being a designer, she took that as one of the tools of art form to help design better well-being. In one of the university I was there pursuing my PhD, these were the subjects where art forms were helping well-being and healthcare industry in a major way. So I think art form kuch bhi ho, if you know, it's the other way around. If you're following this, you got a chance to be in design school, and if you understand the process and approach, you can apply it in your art form and become better in that. And the other way around also, if you are good at, or so I don't know, like if you're restricting your artwork sense to the sketching or the skill part, see, these things can be learned. You might not be very good at that, but these things, any form of expression can be learned. But how to do it, whom to do it, is something which design will help you out. And I'm not very sure whether I even answered your question.
Like kind of.
Kind of, yeah. So maybe
I think don't think so much. Just feel it and just work. You will get your answers about whatever you want to do. And when you talk of art, I think it's more of heart. Dialogue like that, but it's true. Like you need to be sensitive about what is happening around. And expression to any form में आ जाएगा. You sketch it, you write it out. Other things, these are just tangible ways of releasing your emotions or sensitivity or your feelings. So whatever you do, just feel it. Don't just overthink. Like, of course, thinking is important to execute it, but first you need to be sensitive about things around you. Then you can be, other things come later.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so thank you, Harsh. This is the week, so we won't take up a lot more time. Rohit, Sandeep, we have one last question from Sankal, who's asking, since we were talking about communication, an idea goes through a lot of struggle to be an actual product in the market. I think Sandeep sir said this. My question to Rohit sir is, when a product goes through a manufacturing process, there's always a lot of to and fro conversation between the designer and the engineer about manufacturing constraints. Since he's been on both sides of the table, how does one approach design after engineering? And does it help in the conversation? Rohit,
how does one approach design after engineering? Is Acha, he means to say I've been in both engineering and design.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay. Actually, engineering is a past. It was a long time ago. But what I got from engineering is I used to read a lot of thick books. Engineering में थोड़े मोटे books होते हैं. So research came to me easily, which it doesn't come to art students. I mean, I enjoy reading, finding out about things, getting into the depths of things. And we always had a process in engineering. So when I came to design, applying a process was not, I didn't need मेरे लिए कुछ नया नहीं था. Whereas a lot of art students find it new. So that is one thing. And actually, I wanted to give an answer. Yeah, can you just read the question again, briefly?
just a second. Since we were talking about communication, an idea goes through a lot of struggle to be an actual product. My question to Rohit sir is, when a product goes through a manufacturing process, there is always a to and fro conversation between the designer and the engineer about manufacturing constraints. Since he's been on both sides of the table, how does one approach design after engineering, and does it help in the conversation?
Okay. So I told you what are the advantages I had from engineering into coming into design. Okay, and design might seem, if you take design as art, it might seem open-ended. But when constraints apply, you start getting a direction, and in which you need to hit the arrow basically. So coming into that direction, I think engineering helps me. And the to and fro with manufacturers or the vendors or whoever is going to execute your design, for that prototyping stage of your design process is very, very important. How quickly, how economically, and how closely to your actual product you build your prototypes, that matters a lot before you get into the actual design. And over time, as you grow as a designer, you need to visualize the final product on pen and paper. Or basically, you need to tell the whole story of the book in one line. If you can be that simple, I think it reduces. I mean, that's how you need to grow. So prototyping is a very, very important part of design before you go to the output. That's what I think. This lot of things are around. These answers are very much related. When Riti raised the question of how templates are being used, so people use templates, directly jump to templates by skipping these prototyping stages, in between stages, which are very, very important. And these in between stages before you go to the actual design also help you adapt to different disciplines. Maybe it's a FMCG brand or a cycling or healthcare system. When you shift from these domains, these initial stages of design process of prototyping, ideation, these help you. So you make a prototype, discuss with your vendor, understand the constraints, come back to the drawing board, refine your product, go there. So the faster and the better you do this, it just allows you to stretch your limits and to push the vendor also or the manufacturer also to do better. Yeah, I hope the question is answered.
Hi, Sankalp, do you have a follow-up to that?
No, ma'am.
So I'll put in a quick plug here. Our next webinar is going to be innovative methods in prototyping. So probably the next Wednesday, but I'll be sending out an email thing. So I hope you all will join us for that. And if there are no more questions now, we'll wrap up.
Please don't miss the next session.
That too, yes. Thank you so much, Sandeep and Rohit, for giving us time in the middle of the week and sharing all your work very honestly to us. Because what happens is a lot of time, what you see in these elaborate seminars that are organized and the speeches that people give, you see the very final polished version of it, which is all very idealistic, and you never really get to know the true story of how somebody got there where they are today. वो लगता है कि बहुत ही एक shiny path था उनके लिए, but you don't see so thank you so much for being so honest with us. And I'm sure students go through a very similar journey, and being able to see the other side and the hard work that goes into it is life changing. So thank you so much once again to all the students, and especially to both of our speakers today. Thank you for giving us time, and we hope to see you in the next webinar as well.
So thanks everyone. Have a nice day.
Thank you everyone. Thank you, Griti.
Thanks.
Bye.
Okay.